When most people think of flexibility, we usually think about physical flexibility. But in contrast, flex in the workplace is often synonymous with temporal or time-based flexibility. Well, in other words, flex time, compressed work weeks, or telecommuting. But neither one of these definitions encompasses the full range of flexible options that employers can and should offer their workers, especially if you want to recruit and retain millennial workers. Now, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, flexibility is defined as a ready capability to adapt to new, different, or changing requirements. Since no one can deny that we are working in a time of constant and often unrelenting change, this ability to be adaptable in quickly responding to changing situations and requirements can be the definitive factor in whether an organization will succeed or fail. The fact is, we're working longer and stressing out more. The average American worker spends 33% of their lives at work. The typical 8-hour workday was first recommended by Robert Marcus Owen, a Welsh social reformer, who advised way back in 1817 that workers spend their time in 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, and 8 hours rest. Perhaps he was the first to advocate that companies provide a framework in which their employees could achieve work-life balance. But 200 years later, the idea of a 40-hour work week is often a sweet memory for many workers, especially those in the U.S. According to a recent study, 85.8% of men and 66.5% of women labor over 40 hours weekly, with the overall average work week ballooning to 46.7 hours. Salaried workers, who receive the same compensation regardless of the hours worked, average 49 hours weekly, or approximately 22.5% more hours than the traditional 40 hours. And weekends are no longer time to catch up on rest and relaxation, because 33% of workers spend at least some portion of their days off working on projects for their employers. So the fact is that we are working longer hours than we have in the past, despite no decrease in our personal responsibilities and commitments. Taken at a more granular, holistic level, the demands on the modern worker are far beyond those associated with their jobs. Employees, regardless of title or status or field or industry, are bombarded with diverse demands arising from both their professional and personal lives. And often, these demands are time-intensive and conflict with each other. And many times, these demands affect them on a short-term basis. But too often, employers refuse their workers' intermittent requests for a little bit of temporal or location-based flexibility to help them effectively meet their conflicting responsibilities. The need for employers to provide greater flexibility to their workers has become even more pronounced in today's hyper-competitive 24/7 world. Technology provides a great tool for not only temporal flexible options, but also those that are location-based. And in an effort to balance work-life responsibilities, workers look to their employers for alternative arrangements that enable them to efficiently and effectively meet these competing demands. But when workers are not given the permission to modify their work schedules in order to help them cope, the associated job-related stress can become unbearable, leading to not only burnout, but also decreased performance and high levels of turnover. The result is a lose-lose outcome for both the organization and its workers. So, what are the advantages of workplace flexibility? Well, there is significant research-based evidence that employers who embrace flexibility in their workplaces reap immediate and long-term benefits, including, but not limited to, lower levels of energy-sapping burnout that renders workers incapable of effective problem-solving and decision-making, lower levels of stress-related turnover and attrition, but higher levels of work-life balance and overall job satisfaction. Increased productivity and performance when employees are able to work at the times when they are most alert and focused, rather than trying to adjust their personal biological clocks to coincide with predetermined work times. And finally, recognition as an employer of choice that leads to a larger influx of high-quality job candidates and goodwill. So because workers spend so many of their waking hours at work or thinking about work, it is not surprising that the work environment exerts a profound effect on an employee's overall well-being. Flexible work schedules play an important role in employee wellness or well-being programs, which is a growing area in employee benefits. However, the idea of offering employee benefits that will improve their overall well-being has been around for a long time. Would you believe around 1700? In fact, Bernardini Romazzini, life date 1633 to 1714, was the first to warn of the negative effects of work exposure on workers, occupational diseases, and encouraged employers to take preventative measures to avoid them. But more recently, larger companies have begun to offer programs to help workers achieve greater workplace wellness. While initially focusing in the mid-1970s on physical fitness in an effort to contain health-related costs, workplace wellness programs under the guise of EAPs, or Employee Assistance Programs, began to take a more holistic approach with an emphasis on both physical and mental health in the 1980s. Greater education, lifestyle and behavioral change programs, as well as the creation of a supportive work environment, gained traction in the 1990s. And the current approach to workplace wellness has added financial incentives to employees who create and implement more healthy behaviors in their lives. So, what are some types of workplace flexibility? While much emphasis has been placed on flexible work schedules, there are many more programs and policies that can enable organizations to embrace flexibility and harness its benefits. The following are 4 ideas to create a culture of flexibility in ways that extend beyond traditional work scheduling. Number one, childcare. According to the 2016 CARE Index, the average annual cost of childcare for one child ranges between $8,589 and $28,354 in-center versus at-home care, respectively. Such a significant expense can be offset with not only employer-provided on-site childcare, but this can be an expensive option. However, it costs little to nothing to build a workplace culture that sets regular start and end times for meetings and predictable scheduling. Because this simple change can eliminate the stress experienced by workers when a prolonged meeting interferes with their ability for a timely daycare pickup of their child. Other types of flexibility include employer-provided backup childcare and flexible spending accounts that permit pre-tax income to be used for childcare. Number two, food service. According to a study by Eat Club, a business lunch delivery service, providing lunch for employees can yield a 150% ROI. Now, not only does it make employees feel appreciated, but providing access to a free and healthy lunch also decreases the time required for an employee to go off-site in search of a midday meal. But the benefits have even more substantial bottom-line results. 54% of employees are more likely to stay with the company, and 70% are more likely to recommend the company as a great place to work. Number three, on-site fitness facilities. One of the first companies to offer athletic programs for workers was launched by the Pullman Company way back in 1879. National Cash Register introduced twice daily exercise breaks, an employee gym, and a 325-acre recreation park only a few years later. Access to physical activity and movement away from being seated at a desk has increased as a desirable workplace perquisite. Not only does physical movement create a more healthy lifestyle, but it also reduces stress. In a 2015 Quantum Workplace/Limeade survey, 71.1% of workers wanted employers to provide stress relief breaks, even though only 28.4% of their employers currently provided this benefit. And number four, concierge services. Due to the high demands placed on many workers, some companies have offered personal assistants to help employees tackle competing responsibilities. This not only decreases stress levels, but also enables workers to better focus on the job. In fact, many of the companies on Fortune's 100 Best Companies to Work For list offer these services. And the range of concierge services are limited only by imagination and financial commitment. The best way to determine which services will be utilized by employees is to ask them. But some possible options include pet sitting, dry cleaning, meal planning, and travel reservations. Remember, without employees, there is no company. And without engaged and committed employees, there is no sustainability and profitability. In other words, your company depends on employees for its survival. So, as companies increasingly focus on superior customer service as a way to differentiate themselves from the competition, there is an urgent need to create a culture and environment that nurtures the health, minds, and hearts of its workers. Because after all, stressed out workers are more likely to be irritable, frustrated, and disengaged. So it's no longer sufficient to assume that financial compensation alone will motivate and inspire workers to do their best work. Workers want, need, and demand more from their employers. And in today's time-strapped environment, workers need help to meet conflicting responsibilities. This requires companies to embrace a more holistic view of the psychological contract between them and their workers. Flexible cultures offer workers a much desired incentive that not only encourages them to perform at their highest level, but also to remain as a valuable contributor to their employer's success. So decreased absenteeism and turnover, a heightened sense of feeling respected and appreciated, less stress and burnout, higher productivity and performance. These are just a few of the benefits arising from a culture of flexibility. So isn't it time to embrace a more flexible approach to the typical working relationship?